We're going to do the Central Division. We're doing over and unders. If this is your first video that you clicked on, you can go to the Atlantic Division for video numero uno. So we are going to start at the top with the Milwaukee Bucks. They are last year, they were 51-31, tied with Boston and Philly. In free agency, they signed veteran Joe Ingles, and they drafted Marjon Beauchamp, who I really like. They didn't really lose anybody of significance. I would say their only question really is depth. They don't necessarily have a backup guard, I want to say. Like, I can't really think who's behind Drew Holiday right now.
Here.
So, yeah,
You're
I
right.
think we'll pull
right.
up the roster in a second. They are minus 450 to win the division. It's not a very competitive division. The over-under is 52.5, which is kind of a sneaky number if you ask me. Oren,
Yeah,
what are your
this is
thoughts?
tough. It's really tough. So, like, originally coming into this, I thought I would pick the over for sure because I like, you know how we got to the point in LeBron where you're like, don't underestimate LeBron. Like, I've gotten to that point with Giannis, to where I remember last year, like, having conversations with media members about the Bucks Celtics series where Middleton was out and everyone was predicting it, and I was like, I don't know. Like, I think the Bucks will give them a run for their money. People were like, no, Boston's going to win that fairly easily, right? They gave them a run for their money, but it's kind of the same thing here. It's like, this depth is not good. Like, I don't want George Hill playing meaningful minutes for my team. I don't really want Grayson Allen starting for my team. And then Brook Lopez has some injury history there. So, like, if this starting 8 stayed healthy all year, I would definitely like it to win however many games. But yeah, on the other side of things, they're probably like a trade deadline acquisition team. So yeah, this is really hard for me. I guess, like, I picked the under for Boston just because I don't see them having like a superstar in the same caliber as Giannis. And so even though this team is like significantly worse outside of the superstars, I'm going to pick the over because I believe in Giannis that much. And remember, Giannis does not get injured. He can't.
Well, knock on wood, Oren. Knock
He can't.
on wood.
No, he can't.
It
After
it
I
is
saw what happened, I forget, during
the
the
knee,
finals run, though. Yeah, during the finals run.
the
I said,
hyperextended
no,
knee.
he's never getting injured in his life.
He is a monster. And he's playing for Greece in the qualifiers too, but that doesn't matter. Yeah, I mean, on the one hand, the roster is prime for what I was talking about earlier, where they're just going to coast, they're going to figure their stuff out, and then hit the acceleration button, half the latter half of the season. But it's Giannis. He never takes a break, and I think that's why him and Jokic should be even more celebrated than they are, is because they are two dudes who game in, game out are going full throttle. And you don't get to see that from NBA players generally and superstars especially. So, I mean, I freaking love that. But I'm gonna go with the under ever so slightly. There is something really concerning about this team in
There
that
is.
they're old. I think
Yeah.
like um Chris Middleton's coming back from off-season injury. That might take a while. Holiday's getting up there. Brook Lopez is getting up there. And like, I don't, yeah, what's their, I mean, you got Joe Ingles, you got
Ibaka's
Serge
getting up there.
Ibaka, you got
Ibaka's getting up there, yeah.
Bobby Portis is the only guy really, other than Giannis, who's at like the peak of his age. I would hope that Jordan Nora or
Connaughton.
Mamoukelashvili
Yeah.
kind of pops, but
I was gonna
yeah,
shout out Jordan Nora as big year.
yeah,
I
yeah,
totally see that coming.
me too.
He's been playing well.
So, I mean, that would help, but I think this team could struggle for parts of the season.
No, I
So
think
I'm gonna
that's
take
fair.
the
I think the logic in me agrees with you that I don't like the age and the depth, but I'm not going to pick against Giannis. And also, they just have a format and a recipe for success, and they
yeah,
have a lot of continuity. I can never say that word.
continuity.
continuity, and teams with continuity tend to be successful in the regular season. So
Yeah,
it's a slight over for me, but
that's
yeah,
true.
it's a
I
tough
mean,
one.
and that's a good point. I would have thought have thought the same for Toronto and Boston. True, is like consistency really does go a long way in the regular season, and also with the Bucks, I thought the same thing last year, and they proved me wrong. So actually, they would have been under last year. So
Yeah.
okay, moving on. Um, Chicago Bulls.
Oof.
They had a pretty quiet offseason. Last year they were 46-36 with a all NBA DeMar DeRozan experience. In free agency, earth-shattering signings of Andre Drummond and Goran Dragic. They signed Dalen Terry, who I've seen in the Rico Hines runs. He could be kind of interesting. They lost Troy Brown Jr. to the Lakers. They got a lot of questions. Lonzo Ball's health is up in the air. He didn't play for 3/4 of the season. There's rumors to say that he'll be back by the start of the regular season. We don't know what that means. We don't know how rusty he'll be. Patrick Williams, same thing. He broke his wrist and only came back into the playoffs. So his health is always in question. Nikola Vucevic is on the decline question mark, and DeMar DeRozan is, you know, he played out of his mind last year. Is he going to play at the same level? That's another question too. They are plus 450 for the division, and their over under is 43 and a half, Warren.
How much did they win last year?
They won 46 games.
Yeah, this one's also hard because they
They
were
had a lot of
so
injuries
good.
though.
I know, and they were so good before Lonzo and Caruso got injured. Everything was just working for them. And it's if you kind of believe in that, then you think, yeah, they're just gonna get right back to what that was at the start of next season and be able to roll. I think I'm concerned about the depth though. Just not a
Mhm.
lot of impactful players off the bench at all. Um, like Alex Caruso impacts the game defensively, and Io is pretty good. Outside of those two, I'm not really loving it. So,
Kobe White.
like you said, yeah, I don't love him. Like you said, DeMar had like an insane year last year, and I don't really expect him to like improve on it. Although I expect him to be kind of similar. Patrick Williams is another big question mark. Just like his development, I think has been really hard to predict just because it's kind of health and he hasn't taken the steps that people kind of expected, but maybe he will next year. So there's a long way of saying that I'm
Where are you
pretty
at,
torn
Oren?
up about it.
Where are you at?
I don't know. How about you go first? I'm tired of going first.
I'm taking the over. So at first I was like, I think, Chicago did nothing in the offseason. I hate their center position. I think like Vooch, like that trade is really going to haunt this team because if they had
Hmm.
kept Wendell Carter, this team would be on the up. And I think with Vooch,
Hmm.
they're potentially on the down or they've kind of plateaued. Andre Drummond's their backup, big
I
deal.
like Drummond as a backup.
As a backup, sure, but I don't think, the two of them play so differently that I don't really understand how that's going to work in the system. But regardless, I think Patrick Williams is going to make the step this year. There's been some clips of him playing at the Pro Am, whatever, make of it as you
I
will,
saw.
but his handles look real tight.
I saw.
And I think like if he can be more of a threat on the offensive end and he stays healthy with Caruso and Ball, that is a deadly, deadly threesome defensively. And then with Levine and DeRozan, they're obviously not all going to play together, but I think those five guys, also with White, also with Desumno, maybe with Terry, like they have. Uh, I think they have a lot of they have a lot of potential with their backcourt and their wings. And I think if all those guys hit, I think they can get past 43 and a half. It's not that high. So I'm going with the
Yeah.
over.
I think I'll take the over too. I think they found a recipe for success last year with two really elite defensive players in Caruso and Ball and two really elite offensive players in Levine and DeRozan. And last year, I remember being skeptical that they could play those 4 guys at the same time, or even 3 of them, because it's so small. But it
Mm.
worked. It worked like pretty surprisingly well. So I think, yeah, if those guys can stay healthy for long enough, um, I believe in the recipe for, yeah, like 40, 44 wins, 45 wins. Sure, I'm over.
Yeah, I definitely don't love them in the playoffs, but
No,
that's a different discussion. Um,
exactly. Exactly. Like Vucevic is pretty easy to scheme against. That lineup is so small that playoff teams can scheme against it. But yeah, in the regular season,
I really
lot of star power.
hoped that they had grabbed Gobert. I mean, I think it was smart that they didn't, but he would have made a lot of sense with them, like you said, having so many small dudes roaming around and then just having him in the middle. But
Hmm.
c'est la vie.
Yeah, that makes
Okay,
sense.
next, Cleveland Cavaliers. Um, they
Did I
had a,
show the depth chart for Boston, or was I just looking at it? I
you
mean,
mean Chicago?
Chicago. Yeah, sorry
I
if
don't
I
know.
didn't
It's too
show
late.
it.
We moved on. It's over.
This was it. Anyways,
Cle
we're done.
Cleveland last year surprised, I think many, ending 44 and 38. Free agency, they went all Spanish with Robin Lopez, Raul Neto's Brazilian, my apologies, and Ricky Rubio. Then they drafted Ochai Agbaji, Khalifa Diop, and Mobley's brother, Isaiah Mobley. Um, they didn't really lose anybody, but biggest question mark is Colin Sexton. He's still not signed. I believe he's been presented an offer, but has not accepted it. Is that right, Oren?
Yeah, he's definitely been presented offers. They're just pretty far off, apparently, on
Yeah. Um,
length and money.
I think the other question for me is where is Mobley going next in his growth? That's a good question, I think, to have. And then also their wing depth. So they got Abaji, who's an older shooter, shooting wing rookie. They have Karis LeVert for another year, and they have Isaac Okoro, who's still a young raw prospect. They're plus 700 at the division, and their over under is 42 and a half, Warren.
Yeah, Kevin Love is another question mark to me. He's on the
Mm,
final year of that big deal, and he could
mm.
definitely be moved. Even Karis LeVert could be moved. Like, if they don't see him fitting into their long-term plans and he's on the last year of a deal, I could see him also being moved. So, given that, like, and then Colin Sexton too, it seems like there's a lot of uncertainty this year. They're going to go into it, see how they look, but I feel like there's a real possibility if the Cavs are not good, they're not looking to rush into contention. So I could see them taking a step back in order to be better next year, kind of thing. Trading Love for a pick, trading Karis LeVert to rehash some of those assets. So I'm gonna take the under here. Like, as much as I love the Garland, Mobley, Allen core, and I really do love that core, there's not a single piece outside of it that I love. You know what I mean? Like, I don't like Levert's fit. I don't like Markkinen that much. Sexton, who knows? Okoro, he's still a big question mark. Who knows? Love, or like there's not a single player outside of that big three that I'm like, this is a part of their core, or this is a great supplementary player to those three. Um, Going forward. So yeah, with the possibility that they look to take a step back, I'm gonna take under.
And yet, and yet, this is the exact same team as last year, and they have 46 wins. I mean, there's no reason to think that they're going to get worse. They had a lot of injury problems, Allen, Rubio, Sexton, and they still put together 46 wins. They demonstrated that it could work, that they could have Markkanen play the three, and that Mobley's uh, dexterity and Allen's, anchor in the middle could make up for his lack of explosiveness. Um, they're really deep, barring Rubio's comeback, and like he's not going to be healthy for the start of the year. But
Yep.
Dean Wade gives you good minutes. Cedi Osman gives you good
Chetty,
minutes.
yeah.
Love,
Yeah.
Karis LeVert's coming out there. Maybe Dylan Windler gives you some oomph. So they have a lot of depth, which, like you said, uh, that's important in the regular season. They also have something to prove, which I think is a big part of this. Like they're still a team that wants to show that they're legit. And I think those two elements are a recipe for success. So I'm going to actually take the over here.
Yeah. Well, how many unders you got, buddy?
I don't know. I don't know.
I feel like we're yeah. Part of
Yeah, I
this
thought we're
is
not
that I
keeping
need to pick
track.
some unders. I need no, we can go back and keep track.
Okay, I
And
took
whoever,
Boston
yeah,
under
between
and
me and Aiden,
I took
whoever
Boston under and I took Milwaukee under. I know that.
oh,
Oh,
okay,
and
the
New
big
York.
boys.
I got some unders.
Okay. Yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense. Like they shouldn't be much worse than they were last year.
Right.
Um unless those things that I said come true and they get off Levert or Kevin Love. And yeah, like like I said, I believe in the core a lot. Um, I just don't love the way that the roster is constructed around them right now. They're young.
Yeah, they are young, and they are a team that could have surpassed expectations and now settle in a little bit. But Evan Mobley
Yeah,
is potentially a generational talent, so that can
yeah.
change everything on a dime.
But to me, that's what they are. They're a team that overachieved a bit last year, and I see them taking a small step back this year.
Yeah. Okay, moving on. Detroit Pistons. Uh, they were in full tank mode last year, 23-59. Uh, Via free agency, they signed Kevin Knox. Via trade, they got Alec Burks, Nerlens Noel, Kemba Walker. Not bad for the bench. And they drafted really well. Jaden Ivey, Jalen Duren, and Gabriel Procida in 36th. They lost Jeremy Grant in a trade over the summer. And to me, the biggest questions are really just what you'd think about any young up and coming team is, are they tanking or are they going for it? And how raw are their is their young talent actually? Because a lot of this is about promise and potential, but when when these young guys run into grown ass men in the NBA, you realize that actually, oh, they are still boys essentially. And so sometimes that's not true. And we saw with Jalen Green, it was true for a big part of the season. Um, they are plus 20,000 to win the division, and their over under is 28 and a half. Oren.
Yeah. I think this is going to start a theme for me of a bunch of these teams that people that are really young. I just think the league has more parity than ever, and a lot more teams are going to be closer to the middle than we've seen. And I think Detroit's a good example of this. Like, I think it's a pretty easy over for me. I just don't think they're bad enough to like all out tank for the bottom. Cade, what he did in the second half of the season was like legitimate all NBA potential next season. Like he showcased that kind of potential. And so if he's running the show, and there's a lot of just good players here. There's a lot of young players, yes, but there's a lot of also veterans who Alec Burks and Kelly Olynyk, those guys are going to help them win games.
Mm-hmm.
And like, yeah, they could kind of sit guys towards the end of the season, but I just don't think they can be bad enough to warrant like an all-out last place in the league kind of tank. So I think they'll be fighting for a play-in spot kind of team, and I think
Wow.
it's largely due to Cade.
Yeah, I don't know if they'll be fighting for play-in. I will take the over. I love when you combine like mercenary veterans with like hungry up and coming youth. Like I love that Kemba Walker is on this team just from a leadership perspective. I agree with you. I think Cade Cunningham is going to
Kemba
be
Walker
yeah,
is on this team.
he was. I don't know unless they let him go. Did they let him go?
Oh,
Maybe they let him go.
he's not on the depth chart.
He
Let
was in
me
the
check
trade.
Kemba Walker
All right, fine.
team.
Well, even if Kemba's not there, they have enough of, they have some older players, like you said, Corey Joseph, our boy. Um,
Yeah,
and
you're right.
and I think they can that those guys can give some stability when they need it. And I think Kate Cunningham is quickly going to be an all-star, like you said. They're going to give him the rock and let him just do his thing. And if one of Bagley or Killian Hayes or Jaden Ivey or Sadiq Bey, like if one of them grows into a legit third or fourth option, then they're going to get over the 29 wins. So I don't think it's going to be by much, but I think they should get over.
Yeah, I think Cade will be an all-star next year.
Wow.
And that's not to say he's like better than Scotty or something, who I don't think will be an all-star next year. I just think when you look at the offensive firepower of this
Yeah.
team and how he's gonna have the ball in his hands a ton, especially like the way Killian Hayes fell off, they're clearly not like putting the ball in his hands a lot and being like, this is your team. Like it's last year made it very clear that it was Cade's team towards the
Yeah.
end of the year.
Yeah.
And yeah, they're gonna give Jaden Ivey some of those reps instead of Hayes. Um, but I just
It's his
yeah,
team
I think Cade's gonna be an all-star next season,
or it's Cade's team. Yeah.
and
Yeah. And
28 is just low.
Dwayne Casey gets 3 wins from Toronto right there. So, count that. Okay,
And I
let's
like
move on.
their center depth, eh?
Yeah,
Like there's
Stewart,
been talk
Ern,
about Isaiah Stewart starting at the 4 even, and then you have
don't love
Noel and
that.
Duran. Like yeah, but it's
I
just
think
a lot of
it's
bigs.
too crowded. I like Bagley and Stewart are a little bit redundant almost. I mean,
But
they're different.
Bagley is not starting at the 4. Like there's no
Well,
way that's happening.
but he can't play the five.
I'm just saying he's not starting. I
I
don't
know,
think
but
he's starting.
You just have too much. You have Olynyk and Bagley who are kind of redundant in some ways. You have Noel and Stu and Duran who are very similar, and then you have Stewart who's undersized. I don't like. I like it and I don't like it at the same time. I don't know.
Anyways,
They
anyways.
need to sort that out a little bit. Um, okay, let's get to the Pacers quickly. Um, Indiana Pacers, they decided to dismantle their team halfway through the year. Wisely, some would say. They finished 25 and 57. They added nobody in free agency. They shipped Malcolm Brogdon, and of note is Aaron Naismith, who I think will play and see what he's made of. The big draft grab was Benedict Maturin at sixth, Andrew Nemhard at 31st, and a couple Kendall Brown I kind of liked, and he shined a little bit in summer league. Um, they lost Rubio, TJ Warren, and Malcolm Brogdon. The big question mark is, are they going to tank or compete? I think it's pretty clear they're going to tank. They still have Miles Turner, and that's kind of, is he going to be there very long? Oren shaking his head, no.
He's not gonna
I
be there very
I
long.
tend to agree with you. So I think the Pacers are in the tankathon mode. Um, this is Tyrese Halliburton's team, but he's not ready, I don't think, to lead a team, a winning team,
Yeah.
or he doesn't have the surrounding cast to do it. I don't know. What do you think, Ron?
Yeah, it's an easy under for me just because, like,
It's
I
24 and a
don't
half, by
think,
the way. Sorry.
first of all, this is a bad team. Like, I'm just looking at, they promised Jalen Smith he'll start at the 4. Okay. Like, I think Miles Turner will be gone. I think Buddy Hield could be gone by the deadline as well.
Mm,
And then you're relying on a lot of young guards. And I like Mathurin as much as anyone. I like Nemhard, but you can't trust young guards who are rookies to be productive players defensively, especially like and then on the other hand, yes, they are clearly tanking. They're gonna rest Halliburton at the end of the season. They want the number 1 pick. So even though 24 is not a lot of wins, I'll take the under for sure.
Yo, have you seen Buddy Hield's contract? He's not going anywhere, dude. He's owed
The
a
Lakers would like him.
ton of money for a very long time. That's
I
going to
don't
be a
know.
tough one to move. I wonder if they move on from Duarte. Like he's already 26. If they're tanking, like he doesn't even really fit their profile anymore. They could get another pick, or maybe they pair him with Hield. I'm kind of interested. I like Jalen
Yeah.
Smith a lot, but yeah, I'm going to go under here. Somebody in the East has to lose, and I think they're ripe for it.